me draw my. Okay, let's get a little break, okay? So take a little break, like a night. But Miss Joe, she fell with her head, and she's not here tonight, so she's further. She's feeling better, Grace says she's feeling better. Grace is like, I don't know what she's talking about. Well, probably the head hurts, you know, too. Their mom, mother-in-law, but Joe's daughter and granddaughter didn't want to come out. But this is, with her work with the baby, last week, Mississippi camp, in hospital for us kids to be doing better and people come. Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow night. If we'll go, I'll do it tomorrow night. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, just give it. I was thinking you love mercy and good skills. New babies are just healthy. I think it's across the family and the good mercy, mercy, and love you all. Save you all their life and for all to be saved. Pray for the mother and family. Their baby sick in the hospital. Lord, pray for them. Healing, Lord, if there's an infection or something out of his head that you can heal. I pray for those Lord that on our prayer list and have knots on his leg and there's a play with cancer. I pray for the good child healing. For Jason, grandbaby for healing. I pray for this Joe for healing. I pray for others that are church friends that are sick and those that are just kind of under the weather as well. Changing weather, fires going around and cold and different things going around. Lord, I pray for good reasons. I pray for better from those brief illnesses. Lord, I pray for the direct us tonight as we study your word together that will bring honor and glory to you. And learn how to look at life and look at people in a godly way, in your way, Lord, that we can see the potential in others and stick with them. And I pray for Jesus. As we last this week, we'll be the witness of Christ that will be. Pray for homecoming this week that we will have families that are out of church that will come back and get back in fellowship with you and the church and serve you again. Thank you, Jesus, for loving us and for the time we met together. Look, Colossians chapter 4, get right in scripture. If you have any questions, fire away if you would. Okay? Those of you watching from home, if you have questions, you can text me. I'll put the phone name on it. I'm one of those in. So those of you join in on the questions, see if you have a question or if you have a comment. Okay? Colossians chapter 4. Paul is closing out his letter to the people of Colossae. These are people that he never, for the most part, he's never met. But there are people that have gone there that he does know. So Colossians chapter 4, look down verse 7. Yeah, 7 through 10. We'll start reading all these verses together. On my state shall on my state shall Tychicus declare unto you, who is a beloved brother and faithful minister, fellow servant of the Lord, in the Lord, whom I have sent unto you for the same purpose, that he might know your estate and comfort your heart. With Onesimus, a faithful and beloved brother, who is one of you, I shall make known unto done you. Aristarchus, my fellow prisoners, through you, and Marcus, sister, son of Barnabas, touching whom you receive commandments, if we come to you, receive them, suffer them. In the rest of the verses, he calls me by name, he mentions people. He does this in some of the other books that he's written, Paul's written. He closes out the letter, he mentions people by name, to salute this person, give respect to this person, to one person another. So he mentions somebody here, Marcus, and he's the sister, son of Barnabas. I'm going to see Marcus 4. This is John Mark, okay? Turn to Acts chapter 13, we'll read a couple verses, okay? Acts, we'll go and look back. Chapter 13. This is Paul and Barnabas on their first missionary journey. Acts chapter 13 and verse 1. This is what we know about John Mark. A couple other things we'll get to it. Now there were in the church that was in Antioch certain prophets and teachers of Barnabas and Simeon that was called Niger and Lucius of Cyrene and Nahum, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch of Saul. As they ministered to the Lord, they fasted. The Holy Ghost said, "Separate me, Barnabas and Saul, for the work whereunto I have called them." So this is so the Holy Spirit leads the brothers in Christ here to say Paul and Barnabas out on a missionary journey. And they take with them several different people, or just different people. They got verse 13. Now when Paul and his company loosed from Paphos, they came to Perga and Pamphylia, and John, that's John Mark, John departing from them, returned to Jerusalem. He went back to where they started from, and didn't go with them when they went on into the ministry. For some reason, he turned back. Why did he turn back? I don't know. It could be verse 6, he said about demonic type people or sorcerers, and maybe he got tired of being around those people and said, "Well, if I did the Pharisees in Jerusalem, then the sorcery type people there, and these things were going." I don't know why he turned back. He had no idea. Scripture doesn't tell us they turned back. Why? It just tells us when they went so far, John Mark, who was a servant to them, but one was a servant to them, and if he goes with them on the journey, but they get to a certain point, he turns around and goes back. He's not going his way. John goes back to Jerusalem. Why? We don't know. That's where it matters. Okay? Let's see about that. Let's go to the next little story that we know about him. Okay? Verse chapter 15. Acts chapter 15. Acts chapter 15, verse 36. And some days after, Paul said to Barnabas, "Let's go again and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Lord, and see how they do." So they're going on the next missionary journey after they come back and report what they've done. Okay? And Barnabas determined to take with him John, whose surname was Mark. But Paul thought not good to take him with them, who departed from them from Pamphylia, and went not with them to the work. And the contention was so sharp between them that they departed asunder one from another. So Barnabas took Mark and sailed to Cyprus, and Paul chose Silas and departed, being recommended by the brethren of the grace of God. And he went to Syria and Cilicia, confirming the church. So we read Acts chapter 13. Paul and Barnabas are going on this journey. God goes with them. They didn't really get into far into the journey. John Mark comes on their back. So on the next journey that Paul and Barnabas are going to go on, Barnabas says, "John Mark will go with me." Paul says, "You take it easy. It's quick last time. Okay? Before we got to the work, we turned around from the work, went back to Jerusalem, went back to his mom. Whatever we did, it was that time. Okay? And we don't know why, but the contention, I would say, the contention was so sharp between Paul and Barnabas. Barnabas said, "I'm taking it with me." And Paul says, "I'm not taking it. We will not take it with you until we come around." So Barnabas says, "Fine, I'll take it. I'll go this way." And the division between Paul and Barnabas is here. And Barnabas says, "I'll take it." And Barnabas and John Mark go one direction. Paul sees the Silas, and they go a different direction. Now we don't need much more about Barnabas and John anymore. John is not Barnabas. We don't read much more about it, but they go to a work. Okay? They go to a different mission field. They go to show God in a different place. And Paul chose Silas, and they went, and we know the rest of the facts, where they went together. Okay, Syria and Cilicia. Okay. ministry in my 40 years of being 42 years of being Christian. There have been people that I've seen head the right direction. Some people turn around and make the wrong choice. Okay? And there are people that write them off completely. They can make one mistake and they get the rest of life. Okay? There was a preacher that I knew a long time ago. Where someone told me he still served the Lord, but I have no idea where. Okay? This preacher, he was real quick to write everybody off. For the first time, if I agree with you on everything 99% of the time, and you disagree with you on one time, I never want to talk to you again. Okay? And I will scold your name every time I hear your name. I don't want to hear about that guy. I want to hear about that guy. So this guy, he said this publicly. He said it to me privately. He said, once somebody is going the right direction, if they take any step in the wrong direction or do anything they're not supposed to do, or don't agree with him 100%, that he just write them off. Okay. This guy, I like to use the word quitter, that they're a quitter. Okay. Like Paul would do, apparently did with John Mark. Okay. I don't want to take one of that trip. Somewhere along the line, we have grace for people who make mistakes, or grace for people that see things just a little bit different than what we do. Okay? Some of us don't have any grace whatsoever. When I read through this, that I read about John Mark, he never got out of the ministry, continued to serve. Okay? When Tammy and I went to House Anderson College, and probably 10 years after, probably maybe 15 years after college, when we went back up to take a bunch of kids from here to go to the youth conference where I was called to preach, a bunch of other friends were called to preach, and we go up for a youth conference, thousands of teenagers gather together, and they get a lot of real good preaching that week. And we stayed in a hotel, and a guy that I worked with when I was in college, he was a student, we were students together. He was funny. I got along with him well. There was just something about him thought he ain't gonna stay in the ministry very long. Okay, it's just something about him that thought, I know that he liked to. I can say this without saying who it was. They would drive 115 miles an hour when we're going home for a weekend. They would. This one speed limit was 55 back in the 80s, and they would drive. He said, we drive set the cruise on their car and go 115 miles an hour because they're driving at nighttime. We got off work 1 o'clock in the morning, overnight trucking company. And they would be at their destination in the morning, several hundred miles away. And they'd be there for breakfast at mom and dad's house, and they'd stay for the weekend, and they'd be back to school on Monday morning. They didn't go every weekend, but they did that a lot. And I thought, something about that, and I like to drive fast myself, but there's something about him. We just kind of joked and said, okay, we were staying in a hotel 15 years after graduation. This guy gets off the bus. I'm surprised you're still in ministry. I'm surprised you're still saved, brother, because you can't lose your salvation. But we just joked with him because, hey, you're still there. I'm still there. I mean, married girl, they're still serving faithfully in their church, and they've been doing it for, at that time, 15, 20 years, whatever time, 15 years at that time. And we just tickled to death that he was there, okay? When John Mark turned around to go back to Jerusalem, Paul was like, I don't have nothing to do with it next time, right? But then, in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 11, Paul says, take Mark and bring him with thee. Paul's writing to Timothy, bring him with thee, for he is profitable to me for the ministry. Really? That means you don't write anybody off. As long as they're breathing, they have opportunity to serve somewhere, right? I love that idea. Because a lot of people, okay, I'll use an illustration. Travis Kerlock, who preached for us Sunday, great message. He's a great preacher. I like the guy. The more I hear him, the more I like him, right? But he didn't get saved. You think, well, he grew up in a Christian home. His dad served in a Christian school, and they went to church every Sunday. You think he could save when he was 4 years old, or 10 years old, or 12 years old, or whatever age, right? He didn't get saved. When did he get saved? Before he was 18 years old, before he got out of the house, right? When did he get saved? Before he went to the Marine Corps? No, he didn't. Would anybody write him off? You think? Well, he's not serving. He didn't get saved till he's 29 years old, right? Now he's serving God faithfully, doing everything he's supposed to do. I wonder if anybody that was around him when he was growing up, or any decision between the ages of, he was 17 last time I saw him before I saw him in the ministry again. So between 17 and because I was at school. So from 17 to 29, did anybody write him off? Okay? Maybe so. Okay? They made a mistake if they wrote him off. Because he was preaching and singing. It's tremendous. The ministry he has, as an evangelist now, is tremendous. Okay. What about 4 statements? Peter, 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 13, referred to Mark as my son. It wasn't physically his son. It said my son. He referred to him as my son. Okay? God used Mark, this same John Mark that some people would call a quitter, to write the Gospel of Mark. I think it's pretty good. Okay, a couple statements. 1, don't write off anyone for one decision that they make, or one step in the wrong direction. We don't know why Mark turned around. He didn't quit. He never quit serving Christ, but he just wasn't serving with Paul. Where a lot of people would say, they're not with me 100%, write them off. Okay? Okay. In reading this, we find that Mark was a servant to others. Okay? 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 11, he's profitable. Paul says, profitable to me in the ministry. He's a servant to other people. Preacher Dave may have been written off by people who knew him when he was a teenager. He didn't get saved till after he got married. Kathy was born. I don't think Bub was born yet, but he didn't get saved till after he was married, and that's when he started serving. After he got saved, he started serving Christ. That's the reason our church is here. Okay, Mark being a servant. When you read the book of Mark, it presents Jesus as a servant of God. Okay, this also as a son of God, but as a servant of the Lord. There's no long messages written down in the book that Jesus preached that are written in the book of Mark. It's more about the acts that he did, the parables that he spoke, presenting Jesus' miracles as power to show that Jesus was the Son of God. I wonder. I think about this all the time. I wonder if there's anybody we write off that God will never use it. Okay. Preacher Dave, when Sam and I first met Dave and Becky, we were just kids. We were just teenagers. They were in their 20s. He took one message that Brother House preached. Brother House preached a message called God Uses the Ravens, talking about the ravens feeding Elijah. God uses the ravens. And Preacher Dave considered himself a raven. He made a lot of bad decisions with things that happened in his life. That when he was 11 years old, and different things that happened that he was before he got saved. He said, well, God could never use me. And I'll go, if I can, I'll go through this story on Sunday morning on our 30th anniversary here at the church. That about 38 years ago, Preacher Becky had moved to Florida, and Tam and I flew down there for our vacation to stay with him for a week. And had a lot of fellowship with them, a lot of fun with them. But we were on they had a pickup truck. Preacher and I, and he wasn't Preacher Dave, he was just Dave, he was my buddy. Dave and me and Bubby, his son, were in the back of the truck, the bed of the truck, driving. They were taking us to the airport, take us back. And we'd had this discussion for a long time, but specifically in the back of that pickup truck, a little Chevy Love pickup truck, talking about, can God ever use us? Will God use us? Okay? I wonder how many people wrote us off. I guess it could, because God wouldn't use us. We think sometimes the church should be full, but as God used us in 30 years' time, 38 years' time, how many people got saved at this church or as a part of this ministry? Or the people that got saved at this church that went out and pastored other churches, went out and served in other places as a result of this ministry that we don't, some of we know about, some we don't even know about. They're serving different. One boy went to Slovakia as a missionary. One boy's pastoring in Virginia. Another boy's an evangelist. Different things have happened. Jared pastored, associate pastor out in Indiana or Arizona for a while, and serves here. You don't know and how many people that got saved and just led one person to Christ. You know, as a result of this ministry, God uses. I hope so. Don't write anybody off. Sometimes we think, like when we're in a personal conversation, we say, well, they're different, right? That person's different, okay? Okay? I was talking to somebody today, and he was talking, me and him get along real good, me and this guy. We get along good, we laugh a lot together, we tell stories, you know, this time of year we're telling hunting stories, we're telling hunting stories, or deer stories, or whatever, we laugh today. And he mentioned somebody else, he said, they're just different. And he said, I can't remember the word that the guy's mom used, something about, it's a chemical imbalance. He said, yeah, that's it, chemical imbalance. Someone is different. You don't write him off. I witnessed it again. Now, he made a profession of faith when he was a kid. He's not going to church now. I love him. Come here. But Brother John, he's different. Now, one day you see him, he's fine. Next day he's cussing. You don't know what he's cussing. There's nobody around him. You know, there's nobody with him to make him mad. He's just mad at himself or something. Okay. Write him off. As long as you're still breathing, God can use it. I can reach it. Okay? This kind of goes with Travis's message about his daddy praying for him 29 years before he got saved. Right? All right. Don't worry anybody off. Comments, questions? Somebody come to your mind you're going to see or talk to, and think, I don't want to go see it. Okay, let's pray. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for loving us. Thank you for the truth you've given us in your word. I pray to see people as John marks, even make a choice that we think is a fault. Obviously thought that John was making the wrong choice when he turned back to go to Jerusalem. As we see those people, that we see a need, that we can help them. Use us for your glory to bring that person back to you or to win them to you. Thank you for loving us when we come short. Thank you for loving us when we make mistakes in the wrong direction. Use us for your glory. Please name me ask you. Thanks for coming out tonight.